We are joined on this episode by a unique and prolific filmmaker, a Renaissance man who's directed films including AGNES, Alien, and Climate of the Hunter. His latest feature, the fantastical country music comedy Country Gold, is now available via On Demand as well as through Fandor. He's been called a lot of things, the Soderbergh of the Sooner State, but we'd argue that there is no proper comp or label for this gentleman, this budding Oklahoma legend. He's the one and only Mickey Reece. Mickey, we're finally glad to have you synced up here after a few tries, but welcome to the program, sir.
It sure is great to be here. We can go ahead and say that last time it was because of Blues Traveler. That's why I couldn't go.
You didn't have to.
I wasn't going to tell on you, but you can tell on yourself. A concert that you told a friend you'd go to is a valid reason, despite the fact that it's a pop rock harmonica-based band. No judgment.
There's a whole lot of harmonica.
Too much.
It's just covering for the fact that it was a Nickelback concert. Blues Traveler's subbing, but...
Oh, well, Nickelback would be fun because then it's like a joke. But like Blues Traveler was like, we were kind of looking forward to I remember that band. That sounds fun. It wasn't. I didn't have a good time. It wasn't very fun.
Well, hopefully this will be 10 times as fun as the Blues Traveler concert.
Yeah, I would have rather been your podcast, honestly.
All right, well, let's get into it.
My friend didn't like it either, so I'm, it's not like he's like, man, I really like Blues Traveler. Why'd you say that? We were both like, man, this is lame. Anyway, go on.
So
moving on.
First question is surprisingly not about Blues Traveler. It's actually what gave you the bug? What got you interested in storytelling and writing and filmmaking? If there was a movie, a person, a piece of pop culture, what grabbed you initially?
Oh, I think definitely the first time I picked up my mom's camcorder and started making a movie was after Trainspotting. It was the summer before ninth grade. I don't know the math on that. I don't know how old I was. I guess 13. And I filmed me dressing like a punk and shooting heroin and talking in a bad Scottish accent. And it was essentially a lot of the scenes were just me, but if someone would come over, then they would be in the scene too. And then I met these guys that had also like, hey, we want to see your got into a conversation. Like, we want to see your Trainspotting movie. And I was like, here it is. And like, cool. How did you do this and this? And then I saw their movie and I was like, how did you do this? And so we kind of, went from there. And then it just became like a little community of the three of us making movies together.
At what point did you all try heroin?
We did. Still at 40 years old, still have not tried heroin.
Okay, so you didn't fully commit to the Trainspotting of it all.
No, I didn't. I didn't know that you were supposed to do that as an actor. If you were playing a heroin addict, that you're supposed to do heroin as well.
I love that segue, Sean. It's beautiful. That's what we should start asking is our guests, when the first time they experienced a variety of drugs. But instead, I'm going to ask, as you were. It sounds like there was other friends, neighborhood kids that you were getting together with to make, essentially share movies, make movies. As you were doing that, did you have any concept that this could be a future career, or were you just having fun?
Oh, definitely having fun, and probably how old am I now? So, probably did it for a good over 30 years, not ever thinking that, oh, this could be my life. It just organically became my life without, making any kind of living at it.
It's interesting you say that because we do know one thing about you, that many, many moons ago, you were in a band called El Paso Hot Button. Did you also not think that could be a path? Was that just fun, or did it actually help influence your filmmaking?
I think the only thing, I tell you what the band did. The band helped me understand the ins and outs of press stuff. So whenever I went to make my movies, I could be, first of all, we would screen our movies at a local music venue that I used to play at. And so got foot in the door there. And then also getting reviewed in the local magazines was easy because I already knew everybody, you know what I mean, from the band days. So I think that's how the band helped. But not really anything outside of that I can recall.
So walk us down the path of when you decided to make your first feature film. And I read that you shot it on a Canon XL1, which from a certain era is such a common first time do-it-yourself sort of indie tool. What lessons did you learn with that project and take on to the next ones, and how did it all come about?
Well, okay, so that movie and the first feature-length movie is probably 48 minutes. I think that's considered feature-length from where a film festival is concerned. It doesn't really fall into a shorts category at that point. But we made that movie. We learned a lot. We learned this isn't very good. Let's make the next one better and, keep going from there. It's like you got to start from in this. People don't do this. This isn't like a normal thing, but, make something shitty, then make something less shitty, and then keep going until like it becomes good. And that's kind of how this all worked out. So it's really like the movies were not like, acceptable to watch until Strike Your Mistress or Alien or something, like something way later on, because it was just a lot of playing around and, like a sketchbook in that way.
So Oklahoma is a unique spot, and Tulsa's had an art scene. Norman and Stillwater are college towns, so they have a scene. But like growing up with that group and yourself, what was the art and film scene like in OKC when you first started out? Was it even existing, or was it you had to pull resources from elsewhere? And how'd you end up establishing that community there beyond just your immediate friend group from the Trainspotting movie?
Yeah, so we ended up making a bunch of movies from high school on until we got into, I think I probably made the last movie like 19 or something, probably started at like, 13 or 14, probably ended at 19. And we had a bunch of 20-minute movies. They're structured like feature films, but they're like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And I still have a bunch of those VHS movies. And they were shot like on like a digital Sony, like digital 8mm camera, and then edited on iMovie. And actually on the very first ones we edited on like straight from the camera to this kind of mixing board that went to VHS. So we actually had to film it all correctly on camera. We couldn't be like action, like roll in action. It was like action. That meant we hit the red button and, wait a few seconds and start acting, because otherwise the first part of your dialogue would be cut off because there's like a little bit of a delay. At any rate, so we started editing like that with like a mixing board just so we could add music and titles and stuff. And then whenever my buddy Rich, he got an iMac and had iMovie on it. And that's when we started like, now this is a whole new realm of making movies. Like now we can just let the camera roll and then we can edit it later. So yeah, we made a bunch of those and then kind of like took a big long break from it in my 20s and played in the band and stuff. And then started, I don't know how old I was, maybe 26, 27 when I started doing it again. And like I said, making those movies, like making like 3 a year, like premiering at this local venue. But these weren't, and we weren't involved with anybody from the film community around here. Like it was just me and friends. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, certainly not like it is right now where, Scorsese comes to town and shoots something across multiple cities and their tax incentives are much better than they might have been in that day for sure.
Yeah, and there were people that I work with now that they were working back then, or they were in school or something back then. But yeah, we had no involvement with the film community. It was just something that was happening, another sect of things happening. And we premiered all of our movies at this place called Opolis in Norman, and then kind of grew out of that. Now, when I say grew out of it, I don't mean like it caught on. People just started coming like out of the woodwork. Like, no, we would add more people from the community as we went on, and then they would invite their friends. And eventually it's just, it's like everybody knows everybody there. So it's not like, hey, strangers are coming to see these movies. And so after Opolis, after we moved out of that venue, because it was starting to get too small, we moved to Oklahoma Contemporary in the city, which is this amazing art space. And it was a 200 capacity to show our movies. And we would do the same thing, like 2 or 3 a year. It was 3 a year for a long while, and then it became 2 a year when they started getting better. I guess when we started spending more time on them. And then after that, it became going to, we put Alien into our film festival, Dead Center. That's when we kind of, started being more visible to people that worked in the film industry and stuff, and started working with those people. So, at that point, just kind of gaining even more resources to make our movies.
It sounds like your path was very much like one foot in front of the other, learn from each experience and kind of keep moving forward. I mean, your output is insane in a good way. You have now 25 features in just over a decade, which is just unfathomable. So hats off to you.
Well, they're not good, though. You know what I mean? There's a whole slew of them that just aren't really that watchable. They're good for me and all the people that worked on them. We have a great time because those are memories. Mm-hmm. But as far as this whole thing that started when we first got into Fantastic Fest with Strike Your Mistress and Kira's Heart, it was like, hey, the thing is, he's made all these movies and has been in obscurity for all this time until now. And that was kind of like the big selling point to, give you a frame of reference for what you're about to watch. So you're not just like, why is this so shitty? Like, well, because they've been so, been in obscurity for so long. And, this is just kind of their own bubble that they're making movies in. So it's interesting in that regard. But then now it's like a situation where it's like, I've made all these movies and it's like, yeah, but no one needs to see them.
Well, I think clearly in any career with like that amount of output at that volume, at that pace, yeah, you're going to have hits and misses. And regardless, the act of like creating and getting yourself out there again and again to do it is still admirable, regardless of the results. I mean, what drives you to do that? Is it the experience of learning? Do you just like being busy? What keeps you creating at such a rapid pace?
I guess maybe just like seeing the flaws, learning more every time, and then seeing the flaws and being like, "Ooh, I know what to do next time. I know how to make this better the next time." I think that's a lot of it of just how I've kept going, because it's like, well, we can't end on this note. We gotta we gotta do something better the next time.
Right. It's not uncommon to have the decade-old overnight success. Like you said, you could say that those were all hit or miss, or mostly misses, even if that's your opinion. But I would always argue that, a finished script and a finished movie is still better than the unfinished ones that sit around while the people grow old talking about almost making their stuff. So again, hats off to you for keeping it up. So
there was also a lot of that going on where, one of actually, I'm sorry, both of the other guys, whenever the three of us started making movies back in high school, they went to college. I did not. They went to college, and then so we started running with other filmmakers or other people interested in film and other people that would make, student films and things. And a lot of them would not get finished. And I never understood that. I'm like, well, just finish it, even if it sucks, just finish it. And then, make something better the next time, or don't make one at all, but at least finish one. So it was never an option to not finish.
Right. Orson Welles has a lot of unfinished ones, but he also has several finished ones. So that's why we know his name. We're going to get to Country Gold in a moment here, but before we do, if you're talking to someone who's never seen one of your films, do you have a couple projects in your filmography you think you might recommend to somebody first as a starter, like a Mickey Reece starter kit that might give them a sense of what you're about? Because your filmography is so varied. I'm wondering if there's one you think is a good jumping off point for folks.
Whenever people ask me that, I always say Climate of the Hunter. Like anytime of just, like, which one should I watch? I'm like, Climate of the Hunter. It's like the most palatable.
Is that because of easier to digest, or is it also because of any themes in it? Or is it just for you, it's like for an average moviegoer that isn't that experimental or isn't have a high tolerance for really DIY filmmaking, that one's a good one?
Yeah, I feel like it's one that people can watch and be like, all right, it's a movie. AGNES has the challenging situation of, halfway through the movie becomes something else. And that's an odd situation, because filmmakers, of course, understand that that's a choice. And then, audience members are just thinking like, wait a minute, I thought we were watching a horror movie. What happened here? There's some mistake. And I think Country Gold, well, I mean, I like Country Gold quite a bit. I would recommend that one, but it's comedy, and I don't know, comedy's just looked down upon for some reason. Like, I feel like horror movies are, it's more accepting to have a low budget horror movie than it is to have a low budget comedy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I think horror fans are in some ways more tolerant or of a wide range because it's always been kind of a ostracized genre in a way where it's like almost the worse it looks, the better in some cases, right? Think about classics like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where the grittiness makes it look like a snuff film, and that works in its favor. Yeah,
adds to it.
Totally. So I definitely see that. But that's a perfect segue now to start chatting about Country Gold. It's been said by a few that it's a spiritual sequel to your 2017 movie Alien, which reimagines Elvis. How did the germ of the idea start? Is it related to Alien in any way, or is that just something other people are perceiving?
No, I'm sure I started that in saying that after we made Alien, and then kind of did a string of, 3 horror movies, Strike Your Mistress, Climate of the Hunter, and AGNES. And it was like, all right, well, we don't want to do another horror movie next because we got to, spread our wings a little bit, try something new. And it was like, let's go back now that we have more, that we can get more money and have more resources for making a movie, let's go back and experiment with that same concept of taking, a very like a reimagining, completely historically inaccurate version of like a celebrity's life, or, rather a week in the life of, or something, or a couple days in the life of. And so, yeah, that was, so Elvis was kind of, a couple days leading up to the 69 comeback special. So there's actually more like historical accuracy in that one than there is in Country Gold. Country Gold takes a more aimless approach and just kind of like, this is just a story that happens to have Garth Brooks and George Jones in it, but really has no relation to them as people.
We mentioned your band days earlier on, and that most of the lessons you took from it were regarding press. But did you happen to pull an experience or a crazy road story away from your real life as a touring musician for this movie?
No, but we did make that the ending song. That was me. I wrote the song on acoustic guitar and then played it to a click. And then Nick Poss, who does all the scores and stuff, he kind of fleshed it out into a song. So I guess it has some relevance in that way, that there was an original song written for it.
Right. And I got to ask, because this is something Garth Brooks got away with pre-internet taking over, because he would have been raked for it for years. But was there an impulse at any point to ever really further explore the equivalent of his alter ego, Chris Gaines, with your version of Troyo?
So originally in the script, it is that the fetus at the end of the movie had Chris Gaines' hair.
Okay. Nice.
That's about it though. No, because we didn't get it. It wasn't more about just kind of like the idea of these larger than life people, and then kind of creating original characters around them, more so than it is like capitalizing on their real life.
And why did you decide to take on the lead role as Troyo? I know you have acted in some of your films, as well as other folks' films. What was the reason for jumping into that role as the lead?
Oh, I thought it would be funny, and I look like Garth Brooks enough, and the actor that I wanted, it was just not going to work out time-wise.
So it just all kind of came together.
Yeah, pretty much. And the more we talked about it, the more everybody was like, "You got to play Garth. I mean, you got to play Garth Brooks. It's too funny. You got to play Garth." And it's like, all right, cool. And kind of thought like in that vein of just like it'll say so much to the movie too of you playing it. It'll it's this underlying theme that speaks messages of like you going through things in your own career and yada yada. But that was brought up, but it was like never incorporated into the script or had any like motivation of why we did it. Or why I played the character.
It's one of my favorite things about indie filmmaking is some choices you make are just more about practicality or just like on a whim, and then later people assign a lot of meaning to those choices, and you're like, that's cool that it can exist and be valid for them in their read of a film, but a lot of times those choices are really just come down to, I guess, less intellectually exciting reasons.
Yeah, and I think we certainly play the scripts into that too. Like we talk about elements of the script that we could flesh out more, but it's like, but if we don't flesh it out more, then it kind of leaves it up to interpretation in this particular scenario of like this begets this begets that, and so it assigns a larger meaning to what we're actually doing by keeping it vague, if that makes sense.
No, we got you. And with Country Gold and some of your previous films, whether the deep meanings come from just people connecting dots that may or may not be there, do you find it beneficial to work with the cast as both an actor and director? Does it help contribute to the unique performance style your films are known for?
Well, I think there was this thing of like, oh, that's a lot to handle, acting while directing. But I found it easier because you're right there in the scene with the actors. So when something's wrong, you can feel it. You know what's wrong. You're there. Whereas if you're a witness to it, watching a monitor and seeing, and then you're just going to kind of go and be like, all right, I know how we can fix this, but I'm not in the scene with you. I'm not feeling the scene with you. So I don't know what's exactly wrong and how we can exactly fix it. But I'll give you my take on it and see if you guys can get into it in that way. So I think acting with the actors almost made it easier because it almost, other than now that being said, I don't know what it would be like to act in a movie and have a good performance at the same time. I think my performance is one note by design so that I can just be there to kind of lead the other actor into something else. I think the storyline does the work for my character more so than it does for me as an actor. which is, like I said, it's completely on purpose. But I don't know what that would look like if I was like someone as good as like Ben Hall or something directing and acting, and that might be harder.
Yeah, I did have a question about a particular scene and a performance from Ben Hall, who is fantastic. He's playing George Jones in the film. There's this moment where he breaks down, talks about how fans just want more and more and more from artists and have this kind of insatiable hunger for their art without regard to the creator. I'm curious, and this is where we get all like self-reflexive and stuff. Is that something that you were thinking about for yourself as an artist that does have a lot of output, or is that just an interesting dynamic that you wanted to explore with celebrities and musicians?
Yeah, I think it's more general in that I haven't reached any kind of point in my career where it's like, they want more and more. Like for me, it's always just like, do I get to make something? Yay, great. You know what I mean? I'm still in that like kind of honeymoon phase of as an artist where I still just love it, where it's not a chore for me at all. But imagining what these characters and take George Jones and Garth Brooks aside, like who they are as people, but imagining like an older country singer who is, has more of his life to look back on than look forward to, and then have a younger country singer that's, kind of coming up and in the same situation and, by all means, going the same path. It's just imagining that how they would feel and what they would say, because it's all about, at the end of the day, getting these two characters together and getting them talking. And then the movie writes itself in that way. And I think because we capitalize so much on the characters, I think that's why the movies always become very plotless in a good way to me. I love like hangout movies where it's just about the characters. But yeah, so it's more just kind of like seems like this is the obvious choice that this would be happening to George Jones in this moment. So it's more about like staying true to the characters than it was staying true to real life, or certainly assigning a meaning to it in reflecting our own lives as creators. But it's also very relatable in that way.
Right. Yeah, the Hangout movie's gotten some pushback. Like the youngins on Twitter nowadays just want everything to be plot focused and pushing the main narrative at all times. And these people would have a hard time with a lot of 70s movies that I know you're a fan of. We'll get to that in some of the rapid fire questions. But I want to say, even after 25 films, do you find that you're still learning every time you step on set? Did Country Gold itself provide any major new insight that'll impact how you work going forward?
Well, the one thing with Country Gold is it was very much like AGNES was a much bigger movie, and this was kind of more of a palate cleanser of like, all right, so now I think, I'm a little more ready to kind of split the difference. If the next movie, which has a bigger budget, and there's a lot of times I made some missteps, I feel like, in AGNES on working with a bigger budget, because it was the first time I'd worked with that in that large of a scale. So yeah, I think being able to reflect on that and then being able to make Country Gold and remember what was so fun and spontaneous and intuitive about filmmaking. I think, the main goal for the next movie is to like incorporate that, but also with the responsibility of a bigger production.
Nice. And as this is a filmmaking centric, independent cinema centric podcast, any advice for a budding filmmaker or someone who has that DIY spirit that's out there grinding? Any kind of macro or micro advice you'd give them?
Well, don't take the route I did. I think like when I see filmmakers that they make their first film, like, I don't know, like Ari Aster making his first feature, Hereditary. Isn't that his first feature? I think it is, right? Didn't he make like a bunch of shorts, and then his first feature that he like spent a lot of time off the ground was Hereditary? Well, that's the way to do it. You know what I mean? You don't make like 100 movies just and spin your wheels in obscurity. I don't think that's the way to go. That's the way it worked out for me, but I certainly don't. So in that vein, I'm just kind of like, I'm not the person to give advice to somebody because I did it the wrong way.
Well, that itself, I guess, is a good piece of advice. Don't do it the way I did it.
Yeah.
But you mentioned you have a bunch of the VHSs of all those old ones. I know they might have some warts on them in your mind, but I think we know a bunch of people who work for these boutique DVD outlets and stuff. Maybe we should get them digitized for you, and you have some collections, the way that some music video directors have old collections of their stuff. So I think it'd be nice to see the progression.
That's the kind of thing with that stuff on Alamo On Demand. They have like 6 old movies of mine on that site, and yeah, that's not a lot, but it's still like a way where you can kind of start from the beginning and go with a progression. Those movies are better than the earlier stuff that we were working on, but they're still very unrefined, where there's still like a story of progression there. And I guess if those ever get wildly popular, it becomes a a situation where people want to see them, then yeah, that's something that could happen. And I would love that. I would love for there to be interest in that way. And I hope that they are preserved here in my house. So I think if sometime there is the demand to see these old movies and, kind of see this progression, that would be fine. I would be at peace with that.
I think one could argue that like that story of progression of learning for some folks maybe more inspiring than the Ari Aster type of story of like, well, you magically created an amazing first feature film, because it doesn't work that way, right? For everyone, not everyone has those opportunities. So I think there's certainly something inspiring about being able to grab what's in front of you and like move forward with it and continue to make that progress over time. So hopefully there's things people can learn about multiple stories. The one thing I think that's consistent is that there's not one path in the filmmaking business. There's a variety of paths.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Like everybody I talk to, and I talked to somebody today, a filmmaker, asking, about some stuff. And I'm just like, man, this is how I did it in this specific situation. But with your movie and your thing, I don't know that that would fit into the same mold as mine does. So you kind of got to find your own path. Like I didn't, I listened to a lot of people. I was coming up. I was very curious and always wanted to like pick people's brains about how they made it. And none of that stuff ever applied to my journey. But I didn't realize that. So now, yeah, same situation. If like people ask me stuff for advice and stuff, I'm like, well, this is how it worked for me, but I can't say that it's going to work like that for everyone.
No, that's fair. And if anything, just direct people, as we're trying to do, to both AGNES, Climate of the Hunter, Alien, and Country Gold, which Mickey thinks have become the more refined features that he's ready to show you. Those shorts can be seen 10 years down the road, like you said. But yeah, seek these out. And again, on demand, you can find Country Gold as well as through Fandor, which is an add-on on everything from Amazon Prime and other outlets. So please check this movie out. It's a good time for all the reasons we stated. And Mickey, that's the end of the interview proper. We will jump into the next bit because we know you got to make it to that Sister Hazel show tonight. So we're going to do the Rapid Fire 15.
Rapid Fire 15?
Yes, it is a little bit like the Proust questionnaire from Inside the Actor Studio with James Lipton, but we kind of try to tailor it to what we know about you and a little bit more toward your taste. So nothing crazy, just the first thing that comes to mind. It's not a test. It's more of a getting to know you.
Okay. If I have to think about it for a second, you can edit it where it still sounds like I answered it rapid fire.
Sure.
Okay.
Add in the music like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire type stuff. So,
yeah.
All right.
You're saying rapid fire. That's why I'm like, oh wait, I gotta be on my feet. I gotta think fast.
Well, I mean, we want you to, but again, that's only because you got to go see Big Head Todd and the Monsters open up for Sister Hazel. So, sorry, that was a deep pull. What movie?
Damn.
Question number one. What movie? I'm trying to think of bands that are like Blues Traveler. What movie do you think you've seen the most in your life?
The movie I've seen most in my life, Home Alone.
Nice. I've probably seen that a lot too.
You're in the right age range for that one to really stick.
All right, question 2. What's the first film that really scared you or gave you nightmares, really stuck with you?
The video for Good Vibrations by Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
What did it? His abs? What scared you?
I was like, no, I'm sorry, not Good Vibrations. I'm so sorry. The video for Walk on the Wild Side by Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
Oh, I don't think I've seen it. I'll have to look it up now.
I can't think of what it was, but yeah, we will take your word for that one.
Well, I believe there's a situation in there about it. Now, I haven't seen the video or heard the song in so many years. I just remember an image of a woman, like a junkie, this woman that was like strung out or something. And, he's talking about it. He's rapping about it. But then I think it just shows like a little bit of a clip. And I think it just early on, it just kind of like scared me.
Between that and Trainspotting scared you straight, sounds like.
I guess so. I don't know.
All right. Question 3. When it comes to horror movies, what would you say is your favorite horror movie subgenre?
My favorite horror movie subgenre. Ooh. Well, I mean, I like vampire movies quite a bit. I guess
like a good ones, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I would say that. That's the first one that comes to mind. Because if I'm thinking like slasher flicks, not really. Or like, cannibal movies. Nah, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with definitely not zombie movies. Definitely gonna say vampires.
Nice. What's the funniest movie you've seen to you?
Nebraska.
Love that movie.
Interesting.
I saw it with my dad the first day it came out. My dad and I went to the theater to see it. We knew that it was just right up our alley. You know, obviously Country Gold takes a lot of influence from it too. Took my dad. I knew he was going to love it, and I knew I was going to love it. And that's just like little things, you know, like they're outside. There's like a grill next to the house, and the grill has, or the house has a bunch of like, you know, burn marks on it from the grill, like stuff like that, like little things like that. We were just cracking up about because it's just so like we understand that. We just understand those people. Like that's very much like my dad's family, and I think it was just very relatable in that way. So I can't necessarily say that that's a comedy that could be relevant to everyone, but it was to us.
No, but Alexander Payne is like the American Martin McDonough. Like if you get on his wavelength and you are on it, his stuff it plays like gangbusters to you. So yeah, that I understand. Question 5. If you can get a sequel to a film that never got one, or maybe another season of a TV show that ended too soon, what would it be?
Well, TV show, Freaks and Geeks. I think that's the pretty much. I think everybody would agree on that. A sequel to a movie, something that I just really love the characters. Yeah, I try to talk about different movies, but I always fail. I think Fat City, John Huston's Fat City, like would have loved to have seen more in that world. I think there was a lot of potential to just keep going on that movie. It could have been longer. Like I would have watched 4 hours of that thing. That would have been really good. You know, some of those things though, like they're just so good on their own. You know, like obviously a Goodfellas sequel, anybody would watch that, but like I guess it really can't be a sequel or something. You know, I'm just thinking of a great movie like that. Like I don't know.
My Blue Heaven is sort of based on Henry Hill's later life.
Yeah, but I need Scorsese and Ray Liotta and De Niro and Pesci in there too, not just Steve Martin and Rick Moranis. Yeah, we'll go to Fat City. I always think about that movie and kind of like add on to it, like in my own little fan fiction world of like we could have kept going.
Good answer. All right, question 6. What's your favorite theatrical experience or your favorite moment watching a movie with a crowd?
Oh, there's so many. It's hard for me to think about that because I would just like kind of go back to like the formative movies of like whenever I was a kid. I remember me and these two older kids in my neighborhood that took me out to see Batman the first day it came out, 1989, the first Batman. And it was a big thing of just like, we're going to go see Batman tomorrow, Mom. Can I go with Corey and Alan? Like, yes, you can go. Here's just some money. And then they, my parents were not there. This is the 80s. My parents were at work and I was at home. And I was at this now too young to be at home alone. At then it was just like the normal thing of like, yeah, it's a 7-year-old. We leave him home alone all day. And we went to see Batman and we sat in the very front row. Because we thought, like, we don't have any parents. We don't got to worry about this. Let's get right up there. Obviously, that's a mistake. But that's something that was like, I will always remember that anytime people talk about, movie experiences, theater experiences like that. But that's not really, the audience didn't matter. That was just us, like, going to see this amazing movie and sitting in the front row. So amazing movie with a crowd. Man, that is so hard. Because then I'm, like, thinking about the importance of the movie. You know what I mean? I remember seeing Punch Drunk Love. And The Master was a really good theatrical experience with a bunch of friends. I don't know if I can pick one. I'm sorry. You said rapid fire. And
no, you're good. It's either or. She was saying like one or the other. I think crowd aside, like I know the Batman feeling. I was there too at 10 years old. And it was that feeling of independence. You know, you're dropped off. I'm sure that was part of the joy you've been chasing, you know, all of you sat there and kind of did your own thing. But those are good answers.
Oh, you know what? I really enjoyed watching Teton at Fantastic Fest. Like was it 2021? It wasn't last year, but the year before. Yeah, 2 years ago, I believe. That screening was so amazing. I didn't know anything about the movie, and we got in there just like this is the opening night movie of Fantastic Fest, and just being blown away, and that crowd just being awesome. That's really fun. So yeah, I would say that if you're not talking about just nostalgia or like what the movies meant, but actual like theatrical experiences where the audience were just amazing. I mean, it's going to be at film festivals. It's going to be at a lot of film festivals because I can think of so many times that within recent years that I've went to film festivals and just had a blast watching movies with people.
Nice. You actually named a couple films by a director I'm about to bring up. So we're going to do a little rapid fire within the rapid fire. List off your favorite films by these directors. Michael Mann.
The Insider.
Martin Scorsese.
Raging Bull.
Brian De Palma.
Probably. Oh, Carlito's Way.
And Paul Thomas Anderson.
Punch Drunk Love.
Interesting choices on all those. I was not expecting. I was expecting a blowout from De Palma, but those are. I love The Insider. I think The Insider is incredible. Nobody talks about it enough.
The speed. You were like on it for those ones.
Well, I know those.
All right.
The other ones are things I've never thought about, like the best theatrical experience. I'm like, I don't know. I need to come up with an answer for that. That's bound to come up again.
We'll see if this next one gives you a little bit of a headache. Question 8. Who would you say is your all-time favorite director? It's hard because it's like picking a favorite child.
All-time favorite director. And is it just, well, I just have to say it. It doesn't, I can't be like, well, for entertainment value, but what he did with the medium, like I have to actually just say what first comes to mind.
You can say whatever you want.
It could be based on the filmography, not necessarily like the cult of personality around it, but just maybe the one you're always butts in seat on opening night for this person, maybe.
Well, there's a lot. I want to say Michael Mann. That's so tough. You guys are killing me here.
Now, this one, we have to reword this one. It started to break a bunch of directors' brains when we've asked this question. So we'll take Mann for now.
Okay, Michael Mann.
Question number 9. Do you have a favorite concert you've attended or like a really memorable concert experience similar to the theatrical experience memory?
Well, it wasn't Blues Traveler.
I was waiting for that callback.
My favorite concert. I really liked the band. I really liked Sun in Dallas, Texas. It was at Granada Theater. That was like pretty recent, like 2019. So I have to think further back than that. It's gonna be something a little more obscure. Probably Quintron and Miss Pussycat at the Green Door in 2002.
No idea what you're talking about, but sounds fantastic.
Well, they're going on tour soon, and they're probably coming through your cities. Keep a look. I'll make sure you know.
Awesome. All right, next one is also music related. What is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, it's "Bust a Move" by Young MC. Probably. I don't know. It's funny.
Can't go wrong with that one.
it's always funny. What else do? I do "Jump Around" by House of Pain. I do any of the Velvet Underground stuff, just because that's, you don't have to sing in that. You just talk. Anything where you're talking or rapping, because I cannot sing well.
Oh, those are fun answers. In a similar vein, what would be your walkout music? Say you were coming out to Fantastic Fest to present something, or coming out to the Fantastic Fights to box somebody, or ball player, whatever you're doing, TED Talk. What are you coming out to? What music is amping the crowd up?
I don't know. Probably something really stupid, like Master of Puppets or something.
That'll get them going.
I don't know. Like, They Want Effects by DOS Effects.
Nice.
All right. What is your favorite local eatery in your home base of Oklahoma City?
Nice restaurant or smaller scale?
Anything.
Yeah, if you have one of each. But yeah, whatever you would take like a visitor in town, like you got to try this place.
Well, anytime a visitor comes, I always take them to Cattleman's because it's the oldest restaurant, and it's just kind of the most like, this is what you wanted out of Oklahoma. This is Cattleman's. This is like the quintessential Oklahoma restaurant. So that's different. My favorite restaurant here in town right now, it's got to be Mader, spelled Mader.
And what kind of food is that?
It's Lao food. They have like these crispy rice and these sausages and this like chicken. That's really, really good. You know what? No, I take it back. Hot Pot Heroes. That's my favorite. I love Hot Pot Heroes. It's a hot pot. Just put a pot on your table there. And heat it up, and you just like throw like raw fish in it and stuff, and potatoes and whatnot. It's delicious. And what a fun concept. You just have a really good time there.
Yes, Hot Pot is really fun.
Yes, if you guys came through, we'd go to Hot Pot Heroes. It's so fun.
Right. It's a plan.
Yeah, good to know. Number 13 here. If you could program a Mickey Reece double feature for folks to come and get a sense of you, like whether it's 2 films that represent the tools inside of you, or maybe 2 films you just think pair perfectly, or 2 underloved movies, like however you want to frame this. What 1-2 punch are you sharing with the masses at the Mickey Reece double feature?
Well, I think what would be interesting is to show something from when we were kids, like one of these VHS movies when we were kids. I'm looking at them right now, like a stack of them. me see which one. Oh, there's one called Children of the Lord I really like. It's so stupid. So it'd be Children of the Lord and Country Gold.
Nice. And why are you connecting the two? I'm curious.
Because they're both funny.
Nice. All right, question 14, the penultimate in the rapid fire 15. If you could have the answer to one unknown question in the universe, what would it be? Is there a God, meaning of life? Who killed JFK?
Oh, aliens. Aliens for sure.
Nice. I love the ones that you just know right off the top of your head. And that wasn't even hard for you.
Yeah. Are there aliens?
Are there, and have they made contact here? Do they know we're here? I
just
want a
need yes.
multi-part one for that.
I just need yes or no on aliens. That way, if they say yes, I'll be like, okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Now I can live the rest of my life knowing that there are aliens. And then I can start the conspiracies, and I don't sound like a crazy person. It's just like, okay, yeah, this is factual that there are aliens. So any argument we have here, is moot.
And finally, what would be your dream project to make, be it writing, directing, starring? Is there a IP you'd like to adapt? Is there a genre, period, or style, original thing you'd like to tackle?
The fourth Ant-Man movie I've got my eye on. No, I'm just kidding. I think it would be probably the Marshall Applewhite biopic about the Heaven's Gate cult.
Those are sure things for the most part. The cult movies and the cult talks.
Yeah,
love them. Can't get enough cult stuff.
All right, so you aced that. That was hopefully not too painful. That was a rapid fire 15. A lot of interesting answers there.
Yeah, the theatrical one. That's the one that had me pretty stumped.
Well, later on, if you think about what your answer should have been, you can email us and let us know.
Okay, perfect.
Any other projects upcoming you're allowed to talk about yet? Anything we should keep an eye out for, or if you want to direct somebody to a website or social media or anything?
Not necessarily, but I do have, we are working on making a movie, and it's called The Cool Tenor, and supposed to start shooting in September. And the premise is a retired widow weds an unstable jazz enthusiast named Harry, and Harry becomes obsessed with avenging her late husband's death.
Oh.
It's like a little dramatic. It's got a lot of comedy. It's got a little music. It's a little bit of a thriller. It's got a little bit of sci-fi in it. It's all the marks. I'm really excited about it.
Be remiss if I don't call it back one final time, but which role does John Popper play?
John Popper is, well, we're working on getting him in the movie, but his touring schedule is pretty booked up. So I don't know if we can get him in yet.
No, I got you. The hook brings you back.
Yeah. Dude, I would, no, don't, the concert aside, I would totally cast John Popper.
The concert didn't change that for you.
Yeah. I'm still working with John Popper in the future. Don't get it twisted.
Love it.
I see you now doing these black and white reimaginings of these rock and roll people. So like Blues Traveler's naturally next from everything we've heard. So no, that sounds really cool. Like I like the genre mash of it. I like the concept.
Yeah. It's an interesting take on revenge too. I think we see so many different versions of someone's immediate loved one that they're getting revenge for, but I love the concept of it's almost like on behalf of someone he loves, recognizing someone they lost, and the fact that it's not like, I just see a lot of interesting things to explore there.
Well, it's the only way he can show his love. It's the only way he knows how to show his love. Because otherwise, she's like, I don't know, this isn't working out very well. And he's like, well, I can. I
see.
I can show you my love in this way, because he doesn't know how to do it, emotionally.
Get that guy a therapist.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yes, thank you again for the interview. Everybody, again, check out Country Gold on video on demand services on Fandor if you've got that as an add-on on any of your streaming outlets. We'll have links to stuff in the paperstreetpodcast.com show notes. So thank you for your time. Glad we could finally make this work. Enjoy that G-Love and the Special Sauce CD on the way to dinner. We're getting you out of here on time. And yes, thank you again.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.